waiting for the content of the stream to go onto our streaming platform, and then I'll go ahead and start the meeting. Okay, and it looks like that's working now. Share screen. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us here tonight at Catalyze SV's October 23rd Project Advocacy Committee meeting. Looks like we have a pretty good turnout tonight, and I know some of you joined a little bit earlier. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Tonight, this evening, we're going to do things a little out of order from how we would normally do our Project Advocacy Committee meetings. The developer is going to join us for our main project tonight, 1207 North Capitol Avenue, a little later. So we're going to go ahead and rescore and talk a little bit about updates to a project we had talked about at our last Project Advocacy Committee meeting. And those two projects are El Paseo de Saratoga, project we've scored a couple of times now, and an update on 1301 West San Carlos, which is a Chick-fil-A that we discussed, a proposal for a new Chick-fil-A that we had discussed some ways we can take action on as an organization at our last Project Advocacy Committee meeting. But before we do any of that, it looks like there's quite a few of us here, some names I also don't recognize. So why don't we go ahead and do a round of introductions? Everyone just say your name and just a small little bit about yourself and pass it on to the next person. So I guess I'll start, of course. I'm our projects manager here at Catalyze SV. I sort of facilitate the Project Advocacy Committee meeting. And I'm a master's in urban planning student at SJSU. Shalini, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, thank you, Jake. My name is Shalini Gupta. I am with Catalyze SV. I work as technical program manager. Yeah.
Thank you, Shalini.
And
Ashley?
today I'm here to run the Shape SV Star program. I know some of them have joined under that program. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone, my name is Ashley and I work on fundraising, events, and policy for Catalyze SV, and I'm happy to join as my first time that I'll be able to score projects. So I'm super excited tonight. I'll hand it off to somebody and I'll hand it off to Russell if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Brodigan. I am attending a Shaped SV Stars meeting for the first time. Thank you so much for having me today. And I will send it off to Alex. Sure.
Hey y'all, I'm in another meeting at the Santa Clara Planning Commission. If you got our action alert about the Mission Point projects, and I may be in and out of tonight's meetings. Sorry about that. I'll pass it on to Sandana.
Hi everyone. I'm Sandana. I've been part of Catalyze SV for I think, yeah, almost like a year now. It's a year now. And I'm a freshman at San Jose State studying ecology and geographic information science. And I'm from Cupertino. I'm really involved, I guess with the housing advocacy group in Cupertino called Cupertino for All. And so far we've endorsed Rod Sinks and Hungway for city council because we feel like they're going to advance the economic development, transit, and housing in the city. I'll give it to Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Gabrielle Monroe, and this is my second time attending one of the meetings. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris. So yeah, I've been with Catalyze SV since March. And I've been with the this group, the CSV meeting since about I think I started like June, July, so sometime over the summer. Yeah, and I'm, looking to go into urban planning, real estate, kind of looking to bridge like the more of the social aspects of community planning, city planning, and the corporate side of real estate, kind of bridging those gaps, kind of what I'm looking to do. So yeah.
Good to have you back, Chris. Thanks for joining us. And then Casey.
Hi there, yeah. I've been with Catalyze SV for about a year and a half or so. And I spent my career in doing sustainable residential design and construction. And I'm really passionate about smart growth, affordable housing, and all the things that we're looking at here. I'll pass it over to Mackenzie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Dibble, and I am here representing Danco Communities tonight and our project on North Capitol Avenue. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you joining us, Mackenzie. I was gonna have go through things a little bit reverse, but since you're here, pretty much on time, I guess after we're done with our introductions, if you'd like to go ahead and present the project.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Carlin, would you like to say just a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. I've been with Catalyze since nearly the beginning. Live in West San Jose, and interested mainly in urban planning and urban village development.
Thanks for being here. Nomi, hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If you'd like to say a little bit about yourself. If not, Stacy, you can go ahead. Or anyone who hasn't introduced themselves who wants just to say a little bit, you can go ahead and say your piece and then we can move on.
Sorry about that. I just got off the bus. I'm sorry about that. I'm Noemi. I am a current, I'm sorry. I'm a graduate. No, I just recently graduated from San Francisco State and I live in San Mateo, but I am more involved in the city of San Francisco. Right now with the election season is going, we're all gearing up for November 5th. So I am on the Roberto Hernandez campaign. That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you for traveling via the internet to, I guess, get a little bit of what's going on in the South Bay in Santa Clara County in terms of housing and all that.
Yeah, I live in San Mateo, but I do more of like community work in San Francisco, like in the Latino Cultural District, which is 24th and Mission and all that area. Yeah.
Good to have you here. Mason?
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry I have my video off. I'm just eating dinner right now. But I am a former Sunnyvale City Council member, former legislative director to Mayor Mahan when he was a council member, and now doing government affairs. Excited to see all the things tonight. Thank you.
Great to have you here. Augustine, if you'd like to say a little about yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Augustine. Grew up in San Jose, working in tech now. Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. Seems like we've captured everyone here. So then I guess why don't we go ahead and have Mackenzie show us around 1207 North Capitol Avenue. Excited to hear a little bit more about this project. See what you got to show us.
Thanks, Jake. All right, let me get up here.
And then I think I can give you the ability to screen share.
Okay. So, okay.
There we go.
Yep, getting it. Okay. All right. So can everybody see my screen?
I do not think so.
Okay. So share. How about
There
now?
we go. Now I think, yes,
Okay,
I'm
great.
seeing it, and I hope everyone else is too.
Awesome.
Can we make it full screen, bigger?
I think it is full screen. Is it not? Can you see where it says Danco Communities, 1207 North Capitol?
Yeah, I
Notes.
can see it. I think what Shalini is pointing out is like there's the black bars along the left and right side, but I'm not sure
Right.
if that's, I don't know
I don't
what
know if
would
I
be
can
happening.
that. I think my screen's just a lot longer than a normal screen, so it doesn't fit right. Is it really distracting?
It's fine for me.
It's good.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Mackenzie Dibble. As I mentioned, I'm a project manager for Danco Communities. We're an affordable housing developer out of Northern California up in Arcata, Humboldt County. And this is our third time presenting for Catalyze SV. It's going to be our third project in San Jose. We've got another project currently under construction. It's called Mariposa Place. It's 80 units on West San Carlos Street. It's permanent supportive housing and scheduled to place in service in the spring of 2025. And then right across the street from that on West San Carlos as well, we have Madrone Place, which is 154 units. And that's a family project. And we are placing it in service in November of 2025. So both of those projects had Measure A funds on them, City of San Jose, and tax credits and bonds. So the project we're talking about tonight is our new project on North Capitol Avenue at 1207. It's proposed on a 1.5 acre parcel. It's in the Berryessa district of San Jose, and it's also a large family affordable housing development. It's got 128 units spread across 5 floors. The property was originally entitled as a daycare, so you might have seen that online if you looked up the address, but we're purchasing it currently and re-entitling it for affordable. And there's also a single family home on site. So this is kind of a picture of the project site from North Capitol Avenue. The project site's on the right, and then you can see the light rail station is just across the street from it. So the location is great with connectivity. It's right across the street from the rail station, and it's just a block from the on-ramp to Freeway 680. And this is kind of the same view, but the vision of what the project would look like once built. So the general plan has a designation of neighborhood and community commercial, which does allow for unlimited height and number of stories and density, but we didn't want to go too overboard for the neighborhood, but also challenge it in terms of height and density. So this is just kind of a screenshot of the transit map from San Jose. And you can kind of see our project site. It's right here with the black little housing icon. You can see the Berryessa station is here. The orange line, it's connects tenants with other parts of the light rail, the other lines of that. There's also lots of bus lines that go through this area. The bus line 61 at Berryessa and Capitol would take passengers from our project to the transit hub, which is just about 10 minutes away. And that's a really regularly scheduled bus that goes about every 25 minutes between the hours of 7 a.m. and midnight. And this is kind of, I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but the red circle outlines a quarter mile from the project site. So within a half a mile, or about a 5-minute walk, we've got a Safeway, a CVS pharmacy, a Dollar Tree, various restaurants, a church, and some dental offices and orthodontics. A half mile is the orange line, and within that radius, we've got a bank and lots of elementary schools and parks. And then the 1 mile line would be the green line around here. And from there, we've got the Berryessa Community Center, a lot more parks, elementary, middle, and high schools, and daycare centers. So the project site, while it's on kind of a main thoroughfare, is largely in a single-family residential, less urban feeling part of town. But it still has all the necessities that people would need on a day-to-day basis. And as I mentioned, amazing transit that's right across from the site. So a bit about the project description and the affordability of the project. As proposed now, it's a 5-story, 128 unit, 100% affordable housing project. Our unit mix is 31 bedrooms, 55 2-bedrooms, and 43 3-bedrooms. We've got a ton of open space in the project itself. It's got about 12,000 square feet of open space, including outdoor amenity spaces and indoor amenity spaces. And 88 of the 128 units do have private balconies as well. In terms of, sorry about that. In terms of parking, we've got 52 on-grade vehicle parking spaces. 8 of those are EV and 11 would be EV capable. We've got 2 motorcycle parking spaces as well, and 55 long-term bicycle parking spaces and a bicycle room on the ground floor. And then there's also scattered short-term bike parking that would just be like bike stand locks outside. And the project is also affordable for individuals earning between 30 and 70% of the area median income. We're also going to be reserving at least 10% of the units for permanent supportive housing. We're currently in underwriting on a loan to purchase the property with CSH, or Corporation for Supportive Housing, and we are scheduled to close in a few weeks. So this is the view from across North Capitol Avenue. The building's frontage features a 14-foot setback, creating 2 inviting entry plazas equipped with benches, short-term bike racks, and lush landscaping. The design kind of acts as a buffer zone in front of the building and also enhances the vibrancy of the streetscape. And then inside, the ground floor offers a variety of community spaces for residents, including a game room and a cafe, a community kitchen, a fitness room, yoga studio, and a spacious lobby. So these elements are meant to activate the ground floor exterior and minimize the presence of blank walls. And there's also one place where there is a 29-foot blank wall. So we're going to be figuring out some kind of like an art feature for that location. And then on the inside, the courtyard has a bunch of community space. It has an outdoor area for the cafe. So it kind of connects the indoor community kitchen and open space to an outdoor area where people can sit. There's going to be a game area with lawn games and things like that, and then seating arrangements with tables and benches for socializing. And there's going to be a 6-foot walkway kind of going around the whole inside to encourage people to walk around. This is the view from North Capitol from the southeast. And the massing of the building was intended to respond to the surrounding urban context. At the corners and ends of the U-shaped block, the massing is more expressive, breaking up the linear block's length and providing clear urban definition. The upper floors, fronting North Capitol, are more of a horizontal expression that you'll see when I change the rendering, because it's more of a dynamic, busy thoroughfare. And then the south and north wings of the building have this kind of village scheme, which have more vertical masses that break up from the overall form and align with the scale of a traditional residential neighborhood. So that's kind of another view from a similar angle, but a bird's eye kind of and further across the street. And one more from the street level. So this is a view of the North Capitol sidewalk frontage. So the entrance to the project from North Capitol. This is going to be where the cars go in, kind of a little bit farther towards the back. So there's going to be storefront windows at the first floor, as well as the wide sidewalk area that I mentioned, which is intended to give a more dynamic and inviting transitional space. The site is going to be richly landscaped with shade trees throughout the interior courtyard and parking lot. And the south wing features a wider band with outdoor amenities for residents, enhancing the living experience with pleasing outdoor spaces. And there will be trees to kind of buffer the North Capitol Avenue street front. So this is the material palette for the project. It's got kind of a rich array of hues and tones and textures. And we're envisioning wood composite siding, metal wall panels, cement board panels, and perforated metal panels for the guardrails. So here is the kind of site plan and first floor plan for the project. I've already kind of mentioned the community spaces, but on the first floor, we've got 2 entry lobbies. So the principal lobby would be on the left, and then a smaller one for the other wing on the other side. And you can kind of see where cars will drive through a sort of underpassing to get into the parking lot. You can see here we've got offices for supportive services and for the office or for the property manager here. We've got the fitness room, the yoga room, and then the game room and the cafe area, as well as the community kitchen, which are conjoined but also can be separated. So they could be used by different parties at different times or at the same time. And this kind of sliding wall feature will be able to open and close depending on the use for the day. And then you'll also kind of see out here, there's the plaza area where tables and chairs will be and where people will be able to barbecue. Up here on the left is kind of where we're thinking the games and activities for outdoor stuff will be. And there's also laundry on both sides for ease of access for tenants in different wings. We've got the package room for Amazon deliveries and things like that. And the bike parking is also here at the edge of the parking lot. And so this is the floor plan for floors 2 through 5. So it's identical on all of those floors. And you can see that each has kind of a lobby where the elevator would be on each side. And then there's a lounge and laundry room on each floor as well for tenants to use. So just a little on the project timeline. I mentioned we're going to be closing on the property with an acquisition loan early next month. So that's exciting. And then in the winter and spring of 2024, 2025, we're going to be completing our outreach process, completing our entitlement package and our CEQA process. We've already submitted once to the city and we've gotten 1 round of comments back, and we're actively responding to those right now to get them back into the city. And then in the spring or the summer of 2025, we anticipate having our land use approvals, which will allow us to begin to apply for funding. And then the rest of the schedule is kind of in flux, but you know, if we get funding in the first round of tax credits this next year, then we'd be able to close on construction mid-2026 and then start construction soon thereafter and then be complete with construction within 2 years. But it's all dependent on the funding opportunities and competition. So for project outreach, we contacted the city and the county when we first started this project and we first had the idea for it. And they were very supportive of it, although there's no funding available currently for the project. They're on board with it and have been helpful in connecting us with groups that are able to help us along the way. We've also had a couple of meetings with Destination Home in the county in terms of talking about a different kind of a permanent supportive step down model. So while the county isn't committed to offering services to the project currently, there is the potential that they could collaborate with services in when it's completed. We do have enough money in the budget right now for just having our own service package for the residents, including the permanent supportive housing tenants, but collaboration with the county would be huge. We also have a meeting next week scheduled with Councilmember Cohen and looking forward to what they have to say and what their team has to say about outreach and their desires for that and encouragement and getting some ideas for different organizations to reach out to. And then we'll be starting the neighborhood meeting process, and we anticipate hosting a few meetings so that the neighborhood associations and local businesses and potential future tenants can come together and help us collaborate on the project. And that concludes my presentation. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know, and I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, Mackenzie, thank you for presenting the project to us. That was really well put together and full of details. And like you said, let's open it up to questions, I guess. Mason, you already have your hand up, so go ahead.
Yeah, great project. Glad to see affordable housing always coming to the Bay Area. The question I just have is, have you been in contact with the regional housing measure discussions? And I don't know if they're going to throw it back on the primary, probably not, but if they're going to wait 2 years to do that, and then how long that might be a source of funding for you, like a Measure E Part 2, essentially.
Yeah, the good thing about this project is that we're not even anticipating needing to use those funding sources to be able to round out our capital stack. If those, if BAFA or Measure A come back around and put out a NOFA, we'd be more than open to applying for those funds. But we were kind of thinking that, with not having a podium on this project, with not necessarily using those funding sources, and therefore not having to use prevailing wages on the project, that we could keep the costs down and make it work with tax credits and bonds and a couple of other financing sources that aren't so slow moving and just ones that are available currently. So yeah, we'd be open to that and definitely looking out for those opportunities when they do come around, but we're not going to be constrained by them, is the
Great,
idea.
thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Mason. I'll go ahead and ask a question. Something that caught my eye about the project was it's just the parking ratio is pretty low for projects that we've seen in other affordable housing projects. And you've gone with just a surface parking lot sort of in the interior of the project. What was the rationale for the parking selection?
Well, just because the project is so well communicated with public transit, it seems like the ideal place to put something like that. I think, we do manage these projects and own them as well. And I think that with all of the legislature that is now, not requiring any parking, it's really great for affordable housing to be built because ultimately we need housing and not parking. But we do still know that people have cars and do want to have them and use them. We know that it is an amenity that will attract tenants to the project. And especially if, the market changes and for some reason people have a ton more options that It's nice to be able to offer some parking. So
Yeah, people need housing, not cars. That's that's great. Actually, I think a lot of folks here will appreciate that.
yeah.
Casey, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. I had two questions that came to the top of my mind. When you were mentioning that you're including a service package for tenants, I was just curious what that is, what you're including about that. And then second was if you could speak a little bit about if and what you guys are doing around sustainability, energy, water, material choices, things like that. Thanks.
In terms of the service package, we haven't fully fleshed it out yet, but we anticipate having case management on site and resident services coordination, in addition to kind of classes like health and wellness classes, potentially a workout class or a cooking class or something like that. But we found that resident services coordination is the most effective and used amenity that we have in our projects. And so we're definitely going to include resident services coordination as well as case management.
Do you also include any visits from like healthcare provider just for like basic services on some kind of, have you guys explored that?
We actually, in one of our projects here in Humboldt County, we designed in an open door clinic into one of our projects in order to do that because it seems like a great option for people. And unfortunately, nobody really used it and it was kind of a clunky start to that kind of cool co-location of healthcare and housing. But it's definitely something that I think that we would include in our resident services coordinator kind of job description. At least we could try that out. Bringing the coordination of health services on site, or at least some kind of advocacy for it. And then in terms of sustainability, all of our projects, I didn't mention this because we haven't really gotten there yet, but all of our projects are totally loaded with solar panels. And we do make our projects as energy efficient as possible just because it's necessary and it takes down the utility allowances and it allows the tenants to spend less on that.
Yeah, have you gone for a lead rating or would speculate as to what rating your project will receive?
Well, we haven't been doing programs like that recently because we find that it just adds to the cost of the project. But we do have 2 LEED Platinum buildings that we've built. And back when that was more of a requirement for tax credits, we would do more of those things. But we just build our projects as energy efficient as possible. We do all electric projects on every single one of our projects. Except for like one home key that has some gas stoves in it because we couldn't do anything else there. But yeah, we're all electric, as energy efficient as possible. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You guys have 2 other LEED Platinum buildings. That's impressive. Any questions from other folks?
Question, or I don't know if it's quick, but I had a question regarding community engagement around the art feature or mural. Also a little bit about the aesthetic of the building. I wanted to know what Danco's anticipated plan is to engage with the community with regards to that art feature. And also just curious to know what the conversations were like with council office with regards to the aesthetic of the building. Because I know it's in the Ullum Rock Berryessa district, so I'm kind of curious if there's was any consideration about the location when you guys were deciding the aesthetic of the building, and then just wanted to tie that to the art feature part of it.
Well, for sorry, your first question was about community engagement, about the art piece. Okay, so we haven't gotten there yet, but I would be open to any suggestions on how best to do that. I would imagine that we could send out some kind of an RFP to like the local community neighborhood organizations or art associations that would kind of request proposals and ideas for what that could be, and then definitely hire local artists to employ for that part of the project. And then I think you mentioned somebody's office, if I had talked to somebody's office.
I think the second question was a lot, I think it was different than the first one, but I guess the question was how your engagement with the District 4 office was with regards to creating the aesthetic for the building. I was just kind of curious, like what that process looked like.
So I'm not sure what you mean by district core.
You probably can't hear me because I'm in a loud place. District 4 council office, because I said
Sorry.
you engaged with Cohen's office, right?
We are meeting with him on the 4th, so we haven't met with him yet. So definitely that's going to be part of the conversation. That's one of the main things we want to talk to him about is what they would see as most effective in terms of our outreach effort and follow that advice.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that you're sort of putting together this web, this plan of different groups and people you're already going to go talk to. And I like that you mentioned specifically talking to future tenants, which is something that I always think is important for these projects to do.
Yeah, we do property management, like I said, so we're constantly getting feedback from tenants and we're incorporating it all the time. We actually have we're a developer, builder, property manager, and we're owner of our projects. And so we have a lot of different angles of expertise or like input and concerns to be met, which I think if we all kind of get together when we do these projects, when we resubmit, when everything's kind of been adjusted a little bit more, we'll have a meeting with our maintenance team, our property managers, the architect, development and construction. And we go over the plans like floor by floor, room by room. We look at the trash enclosure. We look at the materials, the way that the balconies are connected, the flow of the project in the rooms, and like just bring up all these different concerns from the different parts of the company. And so we're always getting feedback from tenants, from our property managers, and all of that will get incorporated into our project, and just in an interest for everybody to come out with something that they're going to be able to work with better, live in better, socialize in better, just utilize to a higher standard. And so it's going to be like tenants that would live in this particular building, but also tenants that live in similar buildings in similar places with similar concerns that we're already in deeper interaction with.
Yeah, good to hear that you're building off of the experiences that people have from existing projects in your guys' portfolio. And then I have another question about transportation for the project, which is are you familiar with the VTA's Smart Pass program for transit passes for residential projects?
Not intimately.
Is that something you've explored or have heard of before for other projects?
We have not got a plan, I don't believe, to purchase them for tenants, but it's definitely something that I think, especially when the question of less parking comes up, that we would like to incorporate into the projects, especially if like we see, these ones that we're building on West San Carlos, when those kind of come to fruition, how much parking is needed, how much people actually would rather just have a pass and potentially be able to incorporate more amenity space on the ground floor, or more units, more housing in these projects where, the land cost is so high, and it's really kind of a shame to pave it over instead of build it into a functional living unit for somebody. So I wrote that down. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, and we can also definitely put you in touch with people at VTA who would be willing to meet and brief you on the subject as well.
Okay, perfect.
Any other folks have questions for Mackenzie about the project?
Well, I can send you all the slide deck from this evening.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could send it to me and I can distribute it to folks as well. Also, I do have the plans that you had shared.
Okay, cool.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
How's it going, Mackenzie? I just want to know from a logistical perspective, what are some of the biggest obstacles for you when working on these projects, and how do you overcome them?
Ooh. Well, I think first of all, land cost is a big one. In working in different communities, oftentimes we can get longer escrows for these projects, and so we're not forced to commit to a project at such an early stage by buying, a $10 million piece of land. So definitely that pre-development funds, acquisition funds, are a huge boon for a project because it actually allows us to do that. Obviously we're not gonna come up with 10 million ourselves to buy the land, so it's really helpful to have organizations like CSH and Century Housing that and Destination Home that are able to loan on these projects up front. So that's really great. Timing and resources invested into the entitlement process is a huge challenge. I think, even the streamlined process for the other two projects we went through on West San Carlos, they're called streamlined and by right, and yet it still took like a year to get entitled. And so I think that's a big deal because that's your ticket to being able to apply for funding. And so, yeah, the timing is just, it's a challenge. And there's so much work that needs to go into a project before you can even begin to put together your capital stack for it. And then, by the time you're ready, things might have changed and your plan might have to completely pivot. So there's that. And then, yeah, things like, I guess, just government regulations and all the studies and things that you have to do that take time and money to complete a project. And then, just kind of adds to the cost of the housing. And then, just the fluctuation of the building market, building materials, labor costs, all the normal stuff. But I think that's mostly it.
I have a question, Mackenzie. So can you throw some light on how does the community engagement process works from and what is a good community engagement considered by the developer standard?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could go as far as you want to with it. We generally, community engagement meetings are kind of awkward sometimes, and they're a lot of work, and there's a lot of like reminding people that we're here to collaborate on the project, not that the project isn't going to happen. So I think like educating people about what we're talking about is really important. It's like, let's collaborate on how you want the project to look versus trying to fight the project. Because, I think people really want to do right for their communities. And I think that there's just a lot of misinformation out there around, what affordable housing is. Like I live right next to one of our affordable housing projects and it's 80 units. There's permanent supportive housing units in it. And I don't notice it at all, but a lot of people would be like, you have that in your backyard. And I'm like, yeah, and it's totally great, And so I think just like building a narrative around, personal stories and like bringing kind of like the humanity to it is really, really important. It's not just about the building, it's about the people that live in the building. And so kind of like reframing the conversation in that way. But yeah, so it just depends on the community you're into, I think. So generally we do 1 or 2 meetings. We don't go super overboard with it because, like we are pretty good at what we do, I think. And we do listen to people and we do incorporate things that people are going to like. And if we find that they don't, we'll not put them in another project. And so, and we're working with design experts and we're working with cities and communities that know what they want. But yeah, so a couple of meetings and engage people and try to get some good ideas from them is what we do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that answer, Mackenzie. And thank you for that question, Shalini. That was a really great question. I feel like we should be asking more developers, not just what they're doing for community engagement, but what through their eyes is like good community engagement. And that was a good answer, Mackenzie. Thank you. Casey, go ahead and fire away.
Yeah, Mackenzie, would you take us back through the first floor plan and show us more about, you mentioned, I think you mentioned some like community spaces, gathering spaces, game spaces, but I don't, I guess if you could walk us through that, because I didn't really see it on the plan.
Sure. Let's see if I can, I'm not gonna do the PowerPoint, I'll just do the plan.
Thanks.
Yeah. Maybe it is PowerPoint. Let's see. Okay. Can you kind of see? Well, hold on. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I zoom in, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is very kind of conceptual at this point, and um, you can kind of see a foosball table right here. There might be like on some of our projects, we have little like basketball hoops inside for the kids. We have foosball tables and ping pong tables, things like that. There will be a TV on the wall. There can be, there's couches here, and it looks like a shuffleboard table. And then we have the community kitchen where there's a range, a sink, cupboard space, counter space, refrigerator, and then like, quite a bit of furniture that is, you can move around to have parties in or community meetings or whatever you want to do. And then, so that's kind of like the bulk of that right there, the social community space. And then we have the fitness room here, which is going to be facing out towards the street. And then kind of more of like a flex yoga room here. And
I thought you
then,
mentioned outdoor spaces, and that was what I was
yeah,
curious
so
about.
it's kind of like faint, I guess, here, but this curb where you see that it's kind of speckled,
Mhm.
this is all going to be kind of like the idea is that it opens up into a patio. And there will be kind of like yeah, I was thinking about it when I was putting together the presentation today that I wish we had renderings of what was inside because we don't have anything right now that shows, what it's gonna look like on the interior. But so it'd be like a barbecue, some tables like dining or bistro tables out here. So this whole area would be kind of like outdoor cafe kind of a thing. And then there's this kind of green run right here where there's going to be trees and landscape planted. So there's like a little bit of a buffer between the units that face out here. And then there would be lawn games in these spaces. And then I believe this is kind of like a circular bench kind of a deal. And then some more sitting area over here by the parking. So that's kind of the thing. I mean, the site is, we have our constraints with the site, so it's not a ton of outdoor space, but I think it'll be functional and really a nice amenity for tenants to be able to have the kind of patio, have the party here, and then maybe kids playing or adults playing lawn games over in this area.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And could you maybe talk a little bit about the side facing the street there? Because I know it has like these kind of like entry plazas, I think you described them as, or like what's the width of the sidewalk there?
It's
Giving
14
away.
feet. I think that the city has like I thought it was
Mhm.
15 feet, but my architect said it was 14 feet. But
Hmm.
that is like, it's pretty wide sidewalk and you can see it. You can pull it back up. See. Sorry. Where am I? There we go. Okay, share. There we go. So here.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what the street view is going to look like, or the sidewalk in the street. And you can kind of see it's like pretty wide sidewalk. I know that some of our planning comments came back with that these tree wells need to be a little bit bigger so that these trees can grow up in a good way. And then yeah, there's tons of trees that we're putting in on site. And yeah, so it's kind of like this is going to be the amenity area, fitness space, yoga room, and then Yeah, just like a really wide sidewalk kind of transitional space from off the street. And I don't think you can see super well, but this is kind of that place we were just looking. So sidewalk and then kind of a wider entry plaza is here. And then it opens up into the lobby, and then you go into the game cafe space. And then on the other side, it's kind of a similar thing. Let's see. So the other one would be right here,
Yeah.
or the other kind of wing of the building.
Thank you for going into that. And I like the very obvious sort of bike racks. Sometimes I get nervous if I'm biking somewhere and I don't know where I'm going to be able to lock up my bike. So having it just being very obvious where they are and located. Appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a few on the interior as well. Right here, there's one. I think there might be a couple more.
Any other questions for Mackenzie about the project? Yes. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I had two, and Mackenzie, I'm sorry if you already answered it, so apologies ahead of time. Because I know you guys already covered some information about the parking situation, but I'm just really curious, not really a criticism, just more just trying to learn and understand how when decisions are made and when things are decided about not having things or not as much when building the affordable housing. In terms of the parking, um, what if there was a way where, uh, for instance, maybe a tenant is disabled and they can't just go and hop on BART or something, and they need to have their car or, a caregiver. Um, what if ahead of time, um, like it could be like, okay, the tenants that do have cars where it's an absolute necessity, um, where there could be a certain amount of spaces for the tenants that do have vehicles where it's pertinent that they be able to have a space, versus tenants that they don't have a car or they don't care either way. And so they don't really need this space, but maybe a certain amount of spaces for the tenants that do. Is that something that could be discussed in for future projects? Or I'm just asking, because my own experience, I love where I'm at, but I'm a caregiver and I'm also disabled. And so the use of a car and having that space, um, not having parking, it's a hardship on my mom and myself. So that's why I was just curious. Is it more of a financial reason to not really be bothered with the parking?
Well, like I said, when we're designing these projects, like one of the main complaints from our property management team is the lack of parking, even if there are like one or two spaces per unit. But that's also in more rural settings that we would put parking that's like, 1.5 or, 1.75 spaces per unit. But yeah, I guess with the access to transit here, we were thinking that it would be a little bit more kind of like on the wave of the future in terms of we're, trying to get away from parking as a society. We do have the amount of ADA spaces that are required by code, which I think is 4 or 5. And we generally don't do assigned parking, but it's something that we could look at. And I do believe that if somebody who is disabled makes a request like that, that we would need to honor that. And so, I don't know the answer to your question, but I can check in with our property management department because that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it would be a concern. So I can get your email and get back to you about that with a better answer. But I appreciate your question, and I do think that if there's a need for a modification to a unit or to somebody's housing situation that would require them to have an assigned parking spot, that would be possible.
Okay, sounds good. I definitely will supply my email. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you for that one. And then Russell, if you want to go ahead and ask.
Hi, thank you very much. I just wanted to add on to Gabrielle's point, only because I currently live in an apartment complex that was designed for disabled individuals, and most of the clients here are physically disabled. And there was not nearly enough parking designed. There's only 20 spaces here, and already there's more people with cars than there's parking spaces. It's actually become quite the back and forth tug of war between tenants and management now, where management has had to levy tow vehicles to come and take cars away from people that don't have parking permits because there just isn't the space here. So in my personal opinion, I think that not planning for proper parking is something that can very easily come back to bite you if you're not careful.
Yeah, I hear your concern. And I'll get your email as well and see what I can figure out from property management and do a little research. The parking requirement for this site is 0, so we are putting in a lot more parking than is required. But yeah, I hear you.
Thank you for that answer, Mackenzie, and the question, Russell. And we'll take one last question before I think we close this off here and then go into our scoring session. So if anyone has anything left, go ahead and ask that.
I just wondering how you're allocating the parking. Is it you buy a parking space if you need it?
We generally don't have any assigned parking, and we don't charge for parking, so it would be first come, first serve.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I will get your guys' emails, or maybe Jake, if you could send them to me when you're done, I can follow back up with you later on in the week.
Yeah, from the folks in here, I believe we have their emails that I can get you that info. And then with that in mind, I'd like to just wrap up our Q&A here so we can get to scoring before, so we don't go overtime on our meeting. But Mackenzie, thank you for your presentation and all of the good information and all the good questions from everybody else. And once we do our little discussion here in our closed session tonight, I'll get you a preview of what we scored everything, and then in the following day, in the following 30 days, get you a more robust qualitative write-up of everyone's comments and thoughts and your score.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to present. And I hope you guys like the project, and I hope that you have some great constructive feedback for us too. All right.
Thank you. Take care. Good night.